everyone, and welcome back to Blame It on Marketing. And in this week's episode, we are discussing that ever growing, ever troublesome thing of personal brand, and why everyone needs one, or do they? But we're going to get into it with Peter. But first of all, I'm going to hand over to Peter to introduce himself to everyone.
Oh, yes. So thank you for inviting me to this show. Appreciate it. I'm so excited to be here. So my name is Peter Benei, I guess. I don't know. I'm probably the only one with this name on LinkedIn. Um, yeah, so my background is in advertising and marketing originally. I worked for startup companies remotely since 2014 as a CMO-ish. And before that, I was in London mainly in the advertising industry, like brick and mortar advertising agency stuff. And since I don't know, a year or two ago, I started to do consulting only. And it's weird because we are talking about personal branding, by the way, because that's not the core thing that I do, but it just happened to be super popular. So as a marketer, I had to reflect to that, need from the founders, because I usually work with startup founders or scale up leaders in the tech space, and the way they want to grow. It's usually two things: either refining their operations, which I am helping them, or amplifying their brand. And I wouldn't say personal brand, but that's what we are all agree on, that it is a thing. But more like amplifying themselves as a thought leader in the space, because it helps to get them so much stuff on the long term.
So do you think everyone needs a personal brand, or at least everyone in terms of, like, let's say founders that you work with?
I think not just the founders, but definitely anyone who is in leadership position, or anyone who has at least a solid experience in something that they do. It can be anything. They can and they should think about talking about their experience. There is it's an age-old saying in the creators economy, I guess, that everyone's brain is sitting on at least 100K of knowledge. Because if you sell that knowledge in some way, you can earn that money in. But that's a creators economy saying. But I think that's true for leaders as well, who are leading companies, like actual businesses, not like solopreneur stuff, or not like selling consulting or whatever, but like actually leading teams. Because so it has so many benefits for these people. The obvious benefits is obviously they will become more popular within the social media or within digitally, but it leads to so many opportunities. Usually the people that I work with, they do it because of the fundraising, or they do it because they need an extra revenue. Obviously, if you are more, and sorry to oversimplifying it, but if you are more popular, obviously you will get more opportunities in terms of new customers, new clients, fundraising, build some connections and relationships with VCs, go into an accelerator program, get invited to an accelerator program, for example. That's also a big thing. I mean, imagine the situation: you are an early stage founder, you just got your friends and family checklist on early funding or whatever, which we don't really even consider as funding, right? And you're trying to go into an accelerator or a boot camp or whatever. Usually you get to have an invite to actually join those. Most of the startups who apply, they don't get accepted. Usually the VCs reach out to you. And who are they reaching out to? Obviously to those founders who already have some sort of like a activity publicly, so they can check. So I think it's beneficial for anyone who, just to recap, it is beneficial for anyone who has something to say as an expert and has some, goals in mind they want to achieve.
Just to pick up on a point that you just made there, Peter, because we've done a thought leadership episode before. Um, is there a difference between your personal brand and thought leadership?
I think no. Well, yes. I think let me rephrase. Thought leadership is the action. Thought leadership is the activity that you're doing. Personal brand is the concept or the perceived image. It is not an action. You get to have a personal brand through an activity, a consistent, putting out the content, writing articles, publishing here and there, whatever. The thought leadership activity, and personal branding is sort of like the finish line, which you achieve and you can nurture. So I view personal branding as a more solid thing, and thought leadership is the actual activity that we do.
I guess where it gets tricky is what we talked about in this thought leadership episode that we did, which is where, this might be a slightly spicier question. People need to build their personal brand, as you said, Peter, like people, especially if you're looking for funding, etc., or you've got this amazing idea and you need to kind of get it out there. But because we talked about in this episode that thought leadership, realistically, you should leave it down to the expert. So what do you do with your personal brand if you're not actually the expert, but you've come up with an amazing idea? Because that to me is where it gets kind of muddy, right? Because you're kind of like pushing your agenda. You're kind of saying, no, I am the expert in this thing, but the reality is you might not be. So what do you do in those sort of like more, guys? I think that's quite a tricky case, right?
Yeah, especially around startups potentially that are to do with, mental health or, those things that if you get wrong, there's a cost. It's not just, marketing software or something.
I think I will be shouted at here, but my view is super controversial and very straightforward. Everyone is an expert. If you are working on let's segment it into entrepreneurs who are actually building a business, and solopreneurs or individuals who are claiming an expert seat, right? Let's start with the easy one, the solopreneur. Obviously, if you are ever looking to build anything that is a personal brand or thought leadership program, you are obviously an expert in something. Otherwise, you wouldn't even think about that, I think. So in terms of the founders or entrepreneurs who are managing a company or a team or growing as a business, they personally might not be the expert on something. That can be a case, but I rarely doubt that, by the way, because they already started a business. So that's already a thing that they are expert in. But their business is an expert in something, in solving one particular problem for the market. Well, hopefully, I guess. And they can take that problem, pain points that the customers they might have. They can take what their company is doing, and they can just simply talk about that on their personal channels. It immediately makes them an expert. They are the founder, CEO, or whatever leader of that company. So obviously no one questions that expertise because the company is doing that thing anyway. And it builds a brand for the company. It builds the brand for the person as well. And again, it leads to certain opportunities. So I don't really think that that thought leadership is only for experts. I think it's the other way around. If you're an expert, you probably need to have a thought leadership process.
Can I bring up one really I guess this example is going to negate what you're saying, and I just want to know what you feel about this. Theranos.
Well, she was profiled as an expert and a thought leader. Turned out to be not true.
It's really interesting because she studied biomedicine, I believe, quit really early on, and then patented an idea for something that doesn't work, then raised a bunch of money on the patent that couldn't be made and didn't work, and then obviously then escalated into the whole Theranos thing. But it was never a thing. But she had a patent for something which made her look like an expert, which is also a very interesting thing. But yeah, anyway, how do you feel about those cases essentially where they do fall over basically because they're really not the experts in their fields?
I think I will be the chili paprika here, but I have to turn the table. Yes, they were experts. Yes, they were experts, and they had a really great thought leadership program where they, pulled out really great content, and it created a great personal brand for them. I'm not saying that it's a lifetime achievement to make it to the Forbes front page, but the FTX guy, there was a meme, I think, on LinkedIn, that FTX guy, the Theranos lady, and the WeWork at Newman, they all made it to the Forbes. For example, let's take the Theranos example of yours. First of all, she was a medical student, right? So probably had some expertise around medical stuff, which, by the way, the company that she founded was within that industry. Second, the patent. If you have an idea and you patent the idea, it doesn't mean that the patent actually works. It's an idea. So that's one of the things that we need to state. Third, it wasn't the fact that she founded the company and created something that was supposed to be unique that negated her thought leadership or brand or destroyed her personal brand, but the way that she did the business and the way that she continued operating that business. So what I'm trying to say here, and just sum it up, yes, everyone can be an expert. Everyone can build out a thought leadership program that can lead to a great personal brand. And everyone can make shitty decisions that can destroy the personal brand immediately. It's super easy. It's a fragile thing. You make one business decision that is controversial, or someone points out that you are not an expert that you are claiming to be an expert to, and suddenly your personal brand is evaporating. And I'm not even trying to bring up the Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that, but that is also the same case. Pre-Me Too movement, he was the producer for most of the movies. But again, people do bad shit.
Yeah. I think Adam Newman's doing pretty good. I'm pretty sure he went off to do another startup and he's got a bunch of money from people. So sometimes, depending on how shitty you were, I guess, he still built an insane, not sustainable business, but what he achieved was pretty, huge. So yeah, that makes sense. So you talk about kind of the benefit.
I want to get back on that because that's super important that you just said. We can fight against it or not, but sadly we are living in a world where we value, shall we say, over-ballooned egos with super great ideas or perceived great ideas, and we are not living in a world where everyone is a kind, honest, slowly building whatever person. But that's just the way that we live now.
Just because you've got a personal brand doesn't mean you operate. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, you're right, Peter. I think just because you've got a personal brand doesn't mean you naturally operate with integrity, right? You can have a great personal brand and still be a dick. So
one of the things that we talk about a lot, and I guess one of the things you hear about a lot in terms of personal brand, is kind of being authentic and trying to come across authentically, which I guess is almost a counterpoint to what just we spoke about. But what are your views on being authentic? Do you think it's something that if you are building a personal brand, you should strive for?
So I want to turn the table. If you're building any kind of brand, And just to get back to the previous statement that you had, I think it's the building a personal brand or a thought leadership program or whatever. Building a personal brand is the very same that you're building a brand for a company. So it doesn't, I mean, it's the same principle. Even if the company sells amazing shoes, they are still assembling it in China in really weird work rules and whatever, right? So again, a company can be a dick too, shall we say? It doesn't mean that that their brand cannot be hurt or improved or destroyed or whatever. So that's one. Second, authenticity. I think because you are a person, because that's the only difference, I guess, compared to company or like a brand. Is it's a personal brand, so it is about you, you as a person. And for example, if you are not an extroverted, you are on every conference, networking with every people, speaking about everything around you, about the business and startups and whatever. Maybe you shouldn't be speaking about business networking and stuff like that publicly, and you should speak more about how to build your team, your product, how to bring value to the world, and so on and so on. So obviously your personal traits and character and what you are as a person should be authentically represented in the brand that you're building. Otherwise, because again, most personal brands are built online, but there are situations where you need to meet with others personally, I guess. And everyone knows the situation when you, I don't know, swipe someone right and meet it in person, and it's a totally different person, right? So
Don't
it can
even
happen
go there.
with don't know, yeah. So you want to avoid that stuff, right?
I guess if you are putting out what you are an expert in, that should be authentic, because it should be what you are an expert in, unless you are making up what you're an expert in, which is, I know, happens, but yeah.
The safest bet is to use your company. You are building a company. It's probably, if you are at the stage that you are investing in a personal brand, you are already at a stage with your company that the go-to market, or product market fit, or whatever we call it, it's already done. Meaning that you probably live with the company for a couple of years, so you are solving a real problem. And just go with that. Focus on that and make it the whole problems that you solve as a company, make it a little bit more personal. So I don't know. Yesterday I spoke with a mentor of mine, and he is in these like chief financial officers stuff for B2B startups. And it's an accounting type software, whatever. So it solves time for finance teams. It shortens the time that you need to take on financial reporting and whatever. Sounds super boring, right? Now, what the personal brand should do, or the leader of the company, talk about the time wasted on work for CFAs. And it's easy to personalize that company value or unique proposition that the company has to a personal statement or content or whatever it is. You have to be authentic for the target audience that you're speaking to. So if you are speaking to the mass audience, you won't get far, of course. But if you are able to build a brand to your target audience, that's something. And if someone is critiquing your authenticity and it's not on the target audience of yours, I wouldn't say it's pretty much GTFO, but like you shouldn't be caring too much on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think one of the things that I know, 'cause our audience, to speak to our audience for a second, are predominantly marketers who listen in, or at least we hope they are. Maybe we'd like some salespeople to listen in as well. But with that in mind, our fellow marketers are probably listening, going, yeah, this is great. Like they themselves probably want to build their own personal brand, but they also recognize that their leadership team needs to build their personal brands as well, especially if you are in a startup, because a lot hangs on the network of the people who are at the top of your business, right? But what we generally tend to find as marketers is that you'll either get senior leaders who are really bang up for it, who are all over it already, and you kind of don't have to worry about them. But then there are those who are not. But as a marketer, we know that it's really important. It's really hard for us to encourage that. Do you think there is anything that marketers can actually do to encourage that, or are we just like, flogging a dead horse?
Oh, again, spicy reply comes. You cannot sell something to someone if they are not willing to buy already, or at least there is no interest. You cannot go to therapy, and the psychologist cannot really help you if the need to get help is not with you already. So it's different. However, so again, the problem with personal brand is that it's personal. So the person who actually does it, or gets help from the marketer, whatever, they actually need to be on board with that. I'm not saying that they should actually post everything, like we have marketing departments to actually wing that stuff, but they need to pull some time, energy, effort to that initiative anyway. So if they are not willing to do that at all, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try as a marketer to sell it, but you will have a hard time to try to sell that. What you can do though is education. So talk a lot about why it should matter. Why, by the way, why it is so much more cost effective, and we haven't even touched on that, cost effective to do that and sell it as a saving to the leader. Okay, you have two choices. You blow 100K per month on AdWords and whatever and hope that it converts, or you blow 10K on I don't know, marketing agency or internal marketing, whatever, to create a personal brand for you, content calendar, daily publishing, and the yada yada yada. That story goes on, but it's much more effective because you are speaking to your right audience as a leader, not just shooting pigeons with cannons. And it's much more cost effective to do that. And also, by the way, it's a faster approach. So immediately you are starting to pull out content on anywhere. You probably see some traction. I wouldn't say like within days, but weeks.
I wanted to ask you about that because at the beginning, obviously, we're talking about the different goals and the different outcomes that can happen from building a personal brand, depending on what you're looking for. I just wanted to ask you about kind of the speed and how quickly those things can happen. I guess you've answered it there, but what has your experience been?
It's different for there is a window, I guess. So it can happen really quickly if someone is really committed. I mean, not the marketer, obviously, we are committed, but the leader. But it can be really slow as well. So, and by slow, I mean weeks and months. Obviously, if we are talking about like enterprises, this is more like a month territory at least, because you need to get so much insanely mind-blowing approvals from everyone. External communication policies, check, and so on and so on and so on. It's tiring, but you need to go through that once. But again, that takes time, even if the CEO is committed. One other thing that influenced, and obviously a startup company, I mean, they are like, well, obviously startups are smaller and more agile, so they can make decisions really quickly. but they can also be much more flooded. So I'm not saying that a CEO who is sitting in a pretty comfy leather chair of an enterprise is less flooded, maybe. But a founder of a startup company, I mean, things can, I mean, she can just come up, and they need to deal with that, and everything is more important than your update on LinkedIn or whatever you are active there. So bear in mind that. And another thing that also influences the time is who's involved. So I'm not doing that, but I know that, for example, the big personal branding the agencies that are doing personal branding, they are doing not just the personal brand for the C-level or the executive, but also for the whole company. So you probably follow company members or leaders on LinkedIn who have the same cover image, who have the same title stuff, right? They post mostly the same content-ish with slight changes. That's a really great approach, by the way. I think it's amazing. So everyone who signs up immediately becomes an ambassador for the company through their personal brand. But also bear in mind that creating a content schedule, putting everyone on board, that's, again, months to do.
Yeah. I think on from that, I'm really interested in whether, and Ruta, I think we've probably all got slightly different opinions here, as to whether is it really a personal brand if an agency or the marketing team are posting as you? Because I find that really hard, because I've worked in roles where people have been like, oh yeah, you can post as the CEO or you can post as the CRO or whoever, and you can tweak it and make it seem a bit more personal. But I'm like, but it's me. At the end of the day, it's me. And even if I've spent time with that person getting to know them and we've worked on things like their tone of voice, all of that kind of stuff, it's still me posting. And I don't know, maybe there's just me that I find it a bit ick, if I'm being honest. Like, I know people have made great businesses out of doing this, but like, controversially, I'm a bit like, it's not really your personal brand if it's not you posting. Don't hate me.
You are right. Have you seen The Life of Brian? One of my favorite movies. There is a scene when a group of people got asked that who's an individual or something. I can't really quote properly, but everyone is saying that I'm unique, I'm an individual, I have unique thoughts and stuff. Well, that's kind of like the same with personal brands and leaders. So let's say you are, and let's answer this from an example or through an example. Let's say you are let's pick something really fucking boring. Let's say you are in a legal industry, and you are in family law, right? And you have an office with, I don't know, 50 to 100 people, and you're a principal or whatever fancy title you have, and you are trying to do a little bit more about family law and family law issues on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, probably Facebook for you. Can we say that any one of your competitors who are also active in family law, also active on the same platform, will have 90% of the same content as you do? I think yes. It's probably safe to say that whatever you post in terms of topics and stuff, it will be the very freaking same that anyone else is posting within that industry that you are in, or the target audience that you're speaking to. And that's the answer for the agency. And the agency is very much so efficient to create that 90% of the content and guide you to create the other 10% of the content. which makes it personal. Because again, what makes it personal? Two things, I think. The tone of voice of yours. Let's say you are, and I actually had saw this example personally, very controversial tone of voice. You got fucking divorced? I can help you, and stuff like that. That's personal. And I mean, some people. I mean, if you are, for example, let's say if you're a man and you're aiming to help ex-divorcee husbands, I can't even. I don't want to try to say it, but the girl robbed you. Do you want not to get robbed? Hire me as your pal or buddy or whatever, and I can help you and strip that off or something. Right? I actually saw something like this, by the way, on Facebook. That guy from Texas or something, obviously, published that, and I am 100% sure that most of the clients that he has are a-holes, of course, but he has a solid funnel of client list for him. Now we can argue that the personal brand and the guy itself is not really the best one, obviously, but it fills out the purpose of having a controversial idea and having a controversial tone of voice. So tone of voice and personal stuff. So another thing is about me. And let's not give any controversial opinions. Let's go for the cute about the cute side of stuff. I'm in remote business operations and brand consulting. So obviously, the fact that I have a 14-year-old dog who is sitting cutely on the carpet, well, right now as well, by the way, and posting a picture about that dog and stating that, oh, I don't know, it's so great to have, I don't know, what did I post, like a stress relief for harsh environments and harsh operations. So great just to have a friend in your back or whatever. Personally, I don't really understand why people really care about if I have a dog or not, and I'm not a better business in terms of, I'm not a better expert in terms of remote operations if I do have a dog or if I don't have a dog, but people seems to care. So sometimes you need to post some random personal stuff because it is, it's usable. It's that makes you able to connect with others. You are not an AI, well, not yet. You are not an AI generated content. So it has to be a little bit more personal. Otherwise, it's just, agency related templatized content.
Yeah. The point you make there about finding things to connect to people about, like, the first example you gave of the guy who's like, did your wife rob you? That's, if she did and that's how you feel, you're going to connect with that immediately. And I can tell you I will connect with a picture of your dog because I really like dogs immediately. So, it makes sense, I guess, and what differentiates a personal brand from just a employer brand, for example, is that extra bit of humanity in it, if I can say that.
Yeah, you want to know that the person that you're working with is a person, right? I think there is that factors in, and I don't know whether, especially because we're all consultants, right, that actually that might matter more because people work with us on a one-to-one basis. There isn't a team of people necessarily sitting behind us. So I want to know that you've got a dog, Peter, so I know that you're not a psycho. Do you know what I mean? You might still be a psycho and have a dog, but I think it's less likely. You know what I mean? So I think that's what I mean,
I get it. But again, question also is it because of the dog that you order my services? Is it because that I blame your wife to cheat on you and will get all your money back during the divorce proceedings? Is it because of this tone of voice that you work with me, or is it because it was 10% of this but 90% of my showcase of expertise? on other stuff. So it's a hard debate. And my two examples are not very good, by the way, because probably with the lawyer you go with because of the tone of voice, because that's how you think and feel as a ex-husband, and you're also probably an asshole and whatever. So you need to go with a whole lawyer who actually works with you. For an operations perspective, obviously the dog is not a good example. It just makes you a little bit more personal, but that's it.
One question that I still have, and I wonder about this a lot, is when personal brand is kind of enforced onto employees. So when you join a company and they do X, and you're kind of expected to boost that and build that. On the one hand, I'm completely okay with that, and it benefits everyone essentially. But I think it gets difficult if, for example, you're a marketer or a salesperson and maybe you don't stay consistent within industries. So every 2 years, you're kind of completely switching who you are as an expert and building a completely new brand every time. What are your thoughts on that? Because I don't know which way I lean at all.
Oh, that's a hard question. That's a very good question. And truly, I don't have an answer. If you're an employee at a company and the company has a policy that, everyone is and should be engaging with the company tweets and, oh, we just posted a tweet, you should retweet that as the company employee. So if that's the case, obviously, if you're a, I don't know, human company, people first, whatever, which are rarely is the situation, sadly, you should always make it as a choice. So, we are employees of the company. We are not Twitter bots who are retweeting everything. So obviously it should be a choice. If you're and not just marketing leader, but any kind of leader, and you're that's a really weird term, but employed leader for a company. Well, that's different. My advice would be is that you have a career anyway. You need to promote stuff that you do during your career anyway. And you are a marketer. Your job is to promote your clients and their work. So it's totally, from my understanding, it's totally freaking fine if you switch jobs, I don't know, every week, no, every year or two, and you promote different stuff. That's just marketing. So I wouldn't really feel not ashamed, but whatever. And that's true for other leaders as well, I think. And one more thing, I know it's really hard to believe that everyone is saying that the internet never forgets, right? Well, yes, it doesn't, but people do. So if you change the banner image on your LinkedIn, right, or anywhere, or I don't know, update your, oh, I just started a new job in whatever. I know it's hard to hear it, but sorry, but no one cares. So no one will remember. What people will remember is the consistent stuff that you're starting to push out daily, weekly, whatever. And people will notice that you switched, cars, shall we say, once you're promoting the new car that you're sitting in now. So don't stress it over too much.
Yeah. The only time to worry, I think, about that is if you have a huge following around something specific that you do, because then obviously your audience will be completely alienated probably. But also if you are anyone in a business and you are the buyer persona, so if you're a marketer selling to marketers, if you're a salesperson selling to salespeople, oh my God, build the crap out of your brand, because this is the perfect time to talk about yourself and what you do, and also be super useful to the company that you work at. So if anyone has that bit in their career, take advantage of it, because to me that's super exciting. I always found it really fun when I was the buyer persona, because, well, I am the buyer persona now, so that's what I do. But yeah, take advantage of it.
Sure. And also don't forget that personal brand is that it's a thingy that you nurture and keep maintain and whatever. But if you make like insane career decisions, like I don't know, from a marketer you become a boat captain or whatever. Well, actually, it's great. I don't know.
That's
so
great for the internet.
I think
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, wrong example, but you can get the gist. So if you switch, for example, industries, let's say industries, you're a marketer in an industry, and then another, or you're leaving your company to the direct competitor. Again, you are not changing or ruining your personal brand. You are making shitty decisions to your career or risky decisions, shall we say? And risk is always harmful. But
Thank you everyone for watching or listening to this episode, and we really appreciate Peter you being here. All of Peter's details will be down below in the show notes, so if you want to reach out to him and get your ass kicked when it comes to operations and branding, he will definitely do that for you. He's laughing now. He's a very nice person. I joke. So yeah, thank you for watching, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.